Morning everyone, it's Tasha Talks to Teens, and today I wanted to introduce people to a formula that you might be pretty familiar with. So thoughts, what we think, and our mindset, whether it's kind of negative or looking at the not so great things or looking at more of the positives and the silver linings we can pull out of things, our thoughts impact how we feel, and it's almost instantaneous. So we can feel really uplifted, we can feel energized, we can feel like we are going to work hard. Not necessarily that it's fun, but we're willing to work hard because we know what it's going to get us. Or we can feel quite depleted, pretty tired, not a lot of motivation and oomph. But often when we get upset with those feelings, it does start as a cognitive process with how we think. And most definitely our thinking and feeling impacts the behavior that we show, which is the B, thinking, feeling, behavior. And then it gives us, in the end, the results. And so with, when we think about how we want to emerge after quarantine ends, and I like to think too, and this is me thinking, putting that positive lens on things, we want to emerge, what is the world we want to emerge into? What kind of things do we want to see? How do we want people to treat each other? And what kinds of hopes do we want to have to start making a life for ourselves that feels familiar to what we've lost, and maybe also quite deliberate about what we want to bring back into our life. And so yesterday we were talking a little bit about, purpose and maybe ways that we can volunteer or give when we emerge after quarantine. But I wanted people to also think of some other things that you want to have in your life. What are those big dreams you have? Maybe where are your values at? What do you want to bring back into your world? Is it a different way of eating? Is it having more outside time and less screen time? Is it more screen time? Is it being a social advocate? Is it being more connected to your family, or maybe staying closer to home and supporting local businesses? Whatever it is, beautiful if that's your, as long as it's a choice that's coming from within you. And I think it can be easy to focus a lot on mindset. There's a lot of push in education around the positive mindset and helping people, come back after a mistake. And most definitely there are skills and an attitude around being able to make mistakes. A fail is a first attempt in learning. But we sort of forget about a very important part that even happens before we have a thought that comes into our head. And I'm lucky, I did this with smelly markers. So for me, it smells like banana. And it's the things that influence us. And think of friends that you might have had in your life, or what happens to your body if you kind of live on junk food all the time. Most definitely, our friends and our food choices can rub off on what we think about ourselves, how we feel, our behavior, and ultimately the results. So I wanted people to put some time into thinking about those things, the influences that are in your life. And I sort of think of them like the hardware or the software that you're putting on your computer. What's the music you're listening to? What podcasts are you following? Is it something that is in line with who you are? Does it fill you up? Is it there for humor? And even when you think of some of the people that you have in your life, do you have people in your life that are there that support you in the good and the bad? Do you have people there that fill you up? Or are there some people in your world, and unfortunately if they're in your family, it's a bit stickier, harder to set some boundaries with them. But is there someone that you have in your life that you realize it depletes you? It actually leaves you feeling like you take on their emotions, or it doesn't fill you up. And it's okay to recognize that stuff about yourself. And this is where you get to kind of be a bit selfish. When we think of the world that we want to walk into, what are some of those influences that you want to bring closer to you? Pull them on in. And what are some of those influences that maybe you put up with before, or you realize aren't so healthy for you? They're kind of like the junk food in your life. What are those things that you're going to let kind of float away like this little buzzy bumblebee? We want to have the good stuff come into us, and if there's stuff we don't want, we can shoo it off like a mosquito that we don't really want around us. And I also thought it would be really cool if, as always, to have some sort of visual reminder. And so I am very cognizant that people, we don't want to be going to Michael's all the time and buying expensive craft supplies, that there are a lot of things that we have that when we're out on a walk that we can find pieces of wood, beautiful stones, maybe drying roses and flower petals from your garden to make into paper, and be creative. Think of like 1970s crafting. There should be I hope there's a resurgence of that kind of craft going on. And so I've made some influence rocks. And I got the idea walking past a nursing home in my neighborhood, and there's scads of these colorful rocks people have painted to say thank you to the healthcare workers and give messages of hope. And so the residents can come outside on a little walk and walk past the really stunning, vibrant rock garden and see those messages of love. And if their eyesight's good enough, they can read the words. But for me, I was like, oh, this is so cool. And so I had my oldest daughter, who is home from university and very much a busy person that's at loose ends. And so if you've been watching her on TikTok, she's dancing a lot, but she's also a very creative person in many, many capacities. So she's painted some rocks, and I am going to go through them. There are some here too, because you can put some really beautiful influences and messages on rocks. And so I think sometimes when we think of what hits our subconscious and kind of that software that's going on to the computer of who we are, it can be a quick little millisecond of noticing an image or having a word sort of come within us. And we don't always have to stop and spend 30 seconds looking at it. Know that if we have our rock sitting in a space, whether we're walking up our front steps, or they're sitting on the top of a plant in our office or on our desk when we're doing work, that we are influencing ourselves with messages that can increase our belief in ourselves, that can sprinkle seeds of hope and remind us of resources we have, so that we can feel more inspired and recharged and courageous, so that we take chances and we push ourselves to do hard things so we get the results that we want. And so this is a rock, heavy as rocks are, with feathers on it. And for me, a piece that I've really spent a lot of time thinking about is how perspective can change. That even when things feel hard and heavy, that we can choose to look at it in a different light, and there can be some lightness and there can be some movement to any situation. And so this one is most definitely one of those little reminders for me, an influence around if I get stuck in a problem, I need to change my perspective, look at it from a different angle, and try and find a lighter, more optimistic way to view it. There is a beautiful piece of heart-shaped coral that I found on a beach in Costa Rica, which is a magical country, and I hope to go back there soon. We were supposed to go on a family holiday before all this happened and travel bans had stopped, and so this will be a reminder of what is possible, and to love for people that are maybe in countries that don't have the same kind of medical system that we do here in Canada. And I hope just everyone all over the world can find some peace and some good stuff in their hearts. Haley's also made a beautiful little rock with flowers on it, if you can see that one. And so I think of the garden that blooms, and that one flower shouldn't be prized more than the other. We had a little person stop by our house this weekend, and she was noticing and picking the dandelions off our front yard. And dandelions are stunning flowers too in their own way. And so I think we all have the potential to bloom into something beautiful. You can use two rocks to make something. So this is a flower and a septum. And so this one has a 3D quality to it. Very pretty. And possibly my favorite of all is a dream rock. It's a picture of Africa and an elephant. And this would be a place that I think as a family we've started to dream and think about visiting. probably sooner than later, when travel bans are lifted and it's safe to venture to other parts of the world. I think this is a trip that we want to venture out on, to see a part of the world that seems just incredibly magical, and be in touch with, really, I mean, it's neat for my kids to take them to Africa, just because my roots are from Nigeria. And so my dad's family is from Trinidad and Tobago, from the West Indies. And through slavery, that's how Black people came to Trinidad. And I did a DNA test to find out my heritage. It was something that I was really curious about. And so, you know, when you're a slave, you don't have marriage records and baptismal records and a written document to kind of follow and do a lifeline with. And so I found out that my heritage, most of it is from Nigeria. So wouldn't it be neat to be able to take my lovely kiddos back to a place that our ancestors came from, and maybe boogie down, and dip into the culture and see a different part of the world. And so my hope for people is to be really deliberate about some of those influences you want to bring into your life. Choose the podcasts that fill you up. Listen to music that fills your spirit, that has positive messages. Have artwork in your world that inspires you or catches your attention or moves you in some way. And take something that you find in nature, collect rocks and make dream rocks. Have beautiful messages on them, so that when you're brushing your teeth, you look down at the counter and maybe you see a rock that says imagination, and you let yourself dwell in something of what can be. Because when we dip into our creative self, it's an energy that's sustainable. We naturally calm our immune system, increase our immune system, naturally calm our body, and really, possibilities are endless. So until tomorrow, thank you to the people that have been watching Facebook Live. It means a ton that so many people learn stuff from these and pass the information on to their friends. This is my last week doing daily Tasha Talks to Teens on Facebook. Next week, I'm going to jump over to Instagram, where I'm hoping to connect with more youth and create an online community to really support youth that are maybe in more remote areas that really cannot access specialized treatment for young people. If you have any questions, requests, things that you're wondering about, and pieces of information that you know would be really helpful to have other parents learn about, other young people learn about, bug me. I am absolutely open to sharing my knowledge and coming up with some creative ideas to make sure that this online free resource is something that really meets people where they need it. So that, because if that happens, then I know it inspires me to keep being creative and doing stuff more and more and more. So till tomorrow, get out there, enjoy the sunshine, breathe, and be well. Bye, guys. Bye, Rebecca. Ooh, Krista's on. Jenny, this is awesome. Bye.